So I'll post that recording. Once the recording becomes available, it takes like an hour or two. I'll post the recording to web courses as well. So why don't we get underway and where to begin? Where to begin? I'm Professor Guerra-Pujol, and I thought I would begin with, let me see here. I have today's copy of the New York Times. And it's not going to be very visible, maybe, since I'm on a computer camera here, but I've highlighted there. You'll take my word for this, or you can go and pick up a copy of today's New York Times. There are, if I'm not mistaken, 7 front page stories. And what's really interesting is in the news business, what's called above the fold. The newspapers opens up like this. Most likely you get your news online, but if you're old school like me, you get the old newspaper. What's really interesting is that 2 of the 3 stories above the fold involve law. So I wanted to point that out. One of the stories is headline is Justices Take Case Testing Roe versus Wade. So next term, which begins in October of this year, later this year, the Supreme Court will consider overturning or modifying Roe versus Wade. We'll talk about the doctrine of precedent when we talk about the common law in week 3 of this course. But what's really interesting is of these 7 stories, 4 in some way, like I say, 4 of them involve law, and 3 of those 4 involve business law. The other story is about Apple doing business. It's hard to really tell, but it says to get in China, Apple made a hard bargain. And so, there's a whole story about Apple doing business in China. And then below the fold, what's really interesting is a couple of other stories that implicate business law directly. One about AT&T, and another about Andrew Cuomo's book deal, where he got a $5 million, probably undeserved, for a book that he wrote over the summer about his leadership dealing with the coronavirus. Leadership, I'll put that in square quotes. But anyways, and then the other 2 stories involve the Palestinian conflict. And to the extent that international law applies there, that is a source of law we'll talk about in week 2 next week. You could say that all of the stories on the front page of the New York Times today have to deal with law or business law in some form or another. So I wanted just to show you that the relevance of business law, unlike most academic and scholarly subjects where you're dusting off old books and have, at least at first glance, little relevance maybe to your daily activities or contemporary events, business law, or what this course is called legal and ethical environment of business, really does affect us in a daily way. So here's what I want to do today. Today's just an introduction. We probably won't go for the entire time. What I'll do today is I'll talk about all I have this week. I know we just got out of finals. To me, a 1-week break is definitely not enough. So all I'm doing this week is I'm going to post a 2-part academic activity, as I'm required to do, give you an academic engagement activity. So I'll discuss the academic activity. I'll begin by discussing that. Then I want to talk about 3 different movies that illustrate different aspects of business law, and that I'm going to be going more in depth during the semester, but I'm going to need your feedback. It's why I put in the chat part 1 of the academic activity, to try to get as many students as possible. It's why I've held back on the syllabus, because the syllabus is going to depend on the survey results, which I want to post by the end of this lecture. So I'll talk about these 3 movies and these 3 different aspects of business law. And then I will, let me go to my outline here. Then I think what I'm just going to do is I'll release the survey results, since this is an introduction lecture, and then I'll just close the class by opening it up to Q&A, question and answers. Any comments, questions, or concerns. I'll be posting the syllabus based on the survey results. I'll post it later tonight, but I can tell you right now what this course will do is, like, this first week is going to be completely easy. I know we all got just done with finals. We may, if you're like me, you need an extra time, few extra days to gather, your breath and get back into it. So this week, it's just a couple of academic activities like I'll talk about. Next week on Monday, I'll open up a new module. We'll talk about the main sources of law. On week 3, which according to my calendar is Monday, May 24th. I'm sorry, that's Monday, May 31st, Memorial Day. So the next day, June 1st, I'll open up the second module. We'll talk about the common law. The common law is really unique to the United States and our legal environment, and it's really has the fundamental basic rules of business law. So basically it's contracts, property rights, and what lawyers call torts or civil wrongs, when you have to pay compensation for injuries. So we'll talk about the common law. Week 4, which will begin Monday, May 7th, I'll post the next module. I call that the law of ideas. That's intellectual property rights. Then week 5, that's the next to last week of the semester. That's going to be June. That will begin Monday, June 14th. We'll talk about, when you think of business law and law generally, you're probably thinking of juries and judges and cases. So that's when we'll talk about both criminal and civil cases. And then finally, the last week of the course, which will begin Monday, June 21st, I want to talk about ethics and just sort of contemporary business law and its relationship to ethics. So I just want to let you know that for this week, all you have to do is the academic activity. Every other Monday of this semester, I'll post a new module, and then that module will contain whatever assignments, whatever reading. I'll provide all the reading, whatever film clips, and whatever laws or legal materials that we'll be talking about. It's a survey course, so I'm not going to inundate you with a bunch of stuff, but I will, give you sort of like the most important things. So I just want to let you know, just off the bat, how the course is being structured. So let me go ahead and let's go ahead. I'll do a screen share at this point because I do want to share with you the academic activity. I want you to take a look at that. Some of you may have already done it, so this may be a little bit redundant. Let me just go into the screen share modality here, and let's pull that up. Okay, I think that's the right thing. And here is our screen share. Now I'm going to minimize my Zoom screen over there. Oh wait, this is let me go to the home page. So here is our homepage. Many of you, if you're already, if you're in here, you've seen the homepage. What I want to focus on is the academic activity, which has 2 parts. Let me do the second part first. That part you can just take your time. That's not due until Monday, although I'm required to keep it open until the last day of Summer A, which is Saturday, June 26th. But if you want full credit, because these are graded, these are academic activities, and they have to be graded in order to comply with the UCF rule book that I've been sent from the registrar's office. But this is very simple. I don't know how you could fail this. I don't know how you could not get full credit. All you have to do is introduce yourself. And so I'm going to scroll down. I've introduced myself here. And as you can see, as a lot of the students have already introduced themselves. And I'll be replying to each and every one of the student introduction. So you can see here, the idea is that the other thing you'll be doing is you'll be posting a profile picture like Grace has done over here, and like Jack has done, like I have done, and so it's Carolina has done. So you'll be posting your profile picture into web courses. If you've already done that, then you're good to go. And then just a short, a fun fact about yourself and what you're all about. Short thing is more than adequate. The other thing you'll be doing for your academic activity is the part one of the activity, just a short survey with 3 short questions. You'll be telling me your major, you'll be telling me where you're from geographically, and let's see if you can see this. And you'll be, let me end the screen share. Here we go. Or let me just modify the screen share. I hope you're watching or you're seeing now posters for 3 movies. JFK, Oliver Stone's magnus opus from 1991, JFK, about various conspiracy theories. This is the greatest murder mystery of all time. There's also in the middle there the movie poster for The Social Network, which purports to tell the story about the founding of Facebook. Then also there's the other extreme. There is a poster there for Tiger King. This is a case involving, actually what's really fascinating about this, while you look at the screen share, is that all 3 of these movies involve crimes. You know, in the case of John F. Kennedy, we're talking about the murder of the president of the United States, a murder that a lot of people believe is not solved yet. You know, that there is in fact a conspiracy, that the government is hiding that fact. The Facebook is a criminal in 2 aspects. One is that Mr. Zuckerberg, he actually hacked into Harvard's computers to create what was really an illegal website called facemash, where you got to rank students based on their hotness. But even Facebook, the allegation there was that Zuckerberg stole the idea, which is going to have both criminal and civil implications. And finally, with Tiger King, that's about murder for hire, and it also involves so much more. What I'm going to do now is end the screen share, and what I want to do is, oh no, I don't want to end. I don't want to end the movie. I'm sorry, don't want to end. I don't want to. Have I ended the screen share? Is this correct here? Let me see here. All right, great. I've ended the screen share. And what I want to do is I want to talk about each one of these 3 movies. That's what I want you to be voting on. And go ahead and do it now. I don't mind if you're doing it while I'm talking. It's a very simple survey where you're telling me your major. And I need the survey results because I want to be able to update my syllabus based on what the preference of the class is. Now, what I'll probably do is I'll talk about all 3 movies. I just want you to watch one of them. But my coverage of those movies will depend on what the survey results are. So whatever gets the most votes, I'll spend the most time talking about that. Whatever gets the second most votes, I'll talk about that a little bit less. And then the third, I'll talk about that, but less. Now, the reason I think all of these movies are great. JFK, I want to just go in alphabetical and chronological order. JFK is Oliver Stone's magnus opus, probably considered his best movie of all time. It's featuring Kevin Costner, actually an all-star cast in that movie. It's a very controversial movie because the whole thing about John F. Kennedy's assassination is very controversial. I myself, I want to tell you a personal story about the John F. Kennedy assassination. I was born many years after that, but I remember when I was growing up, going to school, and I think I was in middle school. I was probably in the 9th grade, and I had a teacher. I don't know if it's called civics or social studies. I had a teacher who told us that the Warren Commission, that the government lied to us, that they covered up the truth about the Kennedy assassination. And I was in 9th grade, and I was really, back then I wanted to be a member of Congress. I was very idealistic, and this really was a slap in the face to me because it was, to me today, that's no big deal. We know the government is corrupt, the swamp, but I was growing up. This is now in the 1980s, and I'm, going, what? This is a revelation to me. Why would the government want to lie to us about such an important event? And that's why this movie is so important, because it goes into the various conspiracy theories. This movie is also great because it focuses on one aspect of the John F. Kennedy mystery. And that is this guy called Jim Garrison. He was the local district attorney for the parish of New Orleans in Louisiana. And he is the only guy to bring a criminal prosecution relating to the John F. Kennedy assassination, because Oswald was shot. Jack Ruby, although he was tried, an appellate court gave him a new trial and he died in jail. And so what's really interesting is that the Jim Garrison case that he brought is either considered the greatest miscarriage of justice, where he brought charges against an innocent man just to prove a point about the government is dirty, or Jim Garrison is the greatest hero in the John F. Kennedy conspiracy universe, because he had the courage to bring this prosecution, and try to hold the government accountable. So JFK is really fascinating. Now, one of the things I'm fascinated about, and I'm a big fan of Paul Giamatti. He's a well-known actor, not as well-known actor as Kevin Costner. There's another JFK movie called Parkland. It's really fascinating because the same hospital where John F. Kennedy was rushed to after the assassination is also the same hospital where Harvey Lee Oswald was rushed to when Jack Ruby shot him 2 days later. And so to me, it's the best movie about the John F. Kennedy assassination. It doesn't go into the conspiracy theories, but it does focus on Abraham Zapruder. I recently read a book by his daughter, Alexandra Zapruder. This is a frame from the famous Zapruder film. This is the most famous home movie in all of American history. And it's the best piece of evidence as to what may have happened on November 22nd, 1963. And what's really interesting is when you think of a home movie, like today we have TMZ, we have our cell phones where we film stuff. But that's my daughter, by the way, there on home screen, just to be wondering. But guess what? When you take a movie of a police brutality incident, or like Zapruder did, of the assassination, the murder of the president of the United States, think about it. Who owns the rights to that movie? And it turns out that the Zapruder film opened up a whole Pandora's box. I'll tell you right now that the Zapruder family ended up getting I'm not making this up. They got $16 million from the government, because the government, after the movie JFK was released to the public, there was such an outcry about the conspiracy theories that the government, Congress enacted something called the JFK Assassination Records Act, requiring the government to publish and make available to the public for free any evidence relating to the assassination of John F. Kennedy. The first batch, it was a 25-year time period, the first batch of the JFK assassination materials were released by President Donald Trump back in 2017, and the next batch is going to be released, I think, in the next couple of years. The whole point is that, and one of the records was the Zapruder film, but the Zapruder film was a privately owned movie. And so the government had to use this power of eminent domain to literally claim ownership over the movie. So that's why I put the JFK there. And if you're a history buff like me, if you are I'm going to share something with you. Don't think I'm crazy, but I have been fascinated ever since I was a kid. I even have this thing that I made up when I was a kid. This is my John F. Kennedy conspiracy. It's hard to see on the computer screen, but take my word for it. I created this thing of all the different theories. It was Lee Harvey Oswald acting alone. He was set up. It was a conspiracy. All kinds of theories going around there. So that's a really fascinating. The next movie that you may want to vote on is called The Social Network. This is the movie from 2010. And that movie is about the founding of Facebook. And what's really fascinating about the founding of Facebook is that Facebook was like almost all powerful businesses and powerful people, that business, Facebook. And if you go right now, in fact, let me do a screen share because I don't want you to take my word for it. When I taught this course in the spring, back in January 2021, Facebook was $251 per share. Let's go ahead. Facebook's NASDAQ initials are FB. Let's go to the NASDAQ board. And you're going to see that today it's trading at $313 per share. I'm gonna, you can see it there for yourself. I'm going to stop the screen share. It's really remarkable for basically a website that was launched from a dorm room. Today, it's valued at $313 per share. If you multiply the number of shares that are available for trading, that are being traded on the NASDAQ board, the company's market capitalization is I don't even know how you call it. It's $1,000 billion. I don't think that's a huge sum of money. Maybe not as big as Apple, as Google. But what's fascinating about Facebook is that Zuckerberg began by creating this thing called facemash, and facemash basically Zuckerberg he hacked in the illegal sense of the word. He hacked into the Harvard computer database, and we're talking about Harvard here. We're talking about the most famous, prestigious university. Actually, Yale is, I'll say, but Harvard is definitely probably the most famous, considered the most prestigious, although that's, I think, an incorrect denomination there. But it's a great place. And so that's a fascinating study as well. Those of you over Facebook, I'll definitely have to incorporate a lot of internet law into the class. Because Facebook, and what's fascinating about Facebook is just as recently as January 2021, right? Donald Trump was banned from the Facebook platform. That decision, Facebook has set up an internal procedure for appealing, Facebook's content moderation decisions. But just a few days ago, the Facebook Oversight Board, what people call the Facebook Supreme Court, because it has independent members, they actually upheld, although there were some dissenters, they upheld the decision that Facebook made to ban former president, if you want, Donald J. Trump. And I gotta say, that's, whether you like Trump or you despise the man, it's, think about that, right? It's unprecedented in the annals of liberal democracy for the leader of the free world or the leader of a major political party to basically not be allowed to express himself on, in this case, on social media. That is a pretty significant. Imagine if the New York Times were to say, we're not going to publish any letters to the editors sent by Donald Trump, or sent by his supporters, or sent by the critics of Donald Trump. I mean, that's basically what Facebook has done. And that is simply a remarkable, unprecedented state of affairs. So that's also worth exploring. So those of you who vote for the social network, obviously a lot to talk about there. And we all use social media. If I can just add a footnote, although the movie The Social Network is telling us the story about the founding of Facebook and how Zuckerberg stole the idea for Facebook. And as we'll see, he in fact stole the idea. But if we vote for Facebook, we'll see that it's a different, as they say in Puerto Rico, it's another $20 bill. How do you prove that somebody stole your idea? Puerto Rico in Spanish, son otros 20 pesos. It's a great phrase, It's one thing to say you stole my idea, but how do you prove that? But we'll see that later on when Facebook was about to go public in 2012 and get traded on the NASDAQ, Mark Zuckerberg made what is perhaps the best decision in modern business history. He decided to buy the rights to Instagram. And I know for a fact, many of, Instagram is very popular among young adults. I know it's being now replaced maybe with other sites like TikTok or being supplemented, et cetera, et cetera. But Instagram is wholly owned by Facebook today. Although it was created by a different group of people, Zuckerberg, in this case, he legally bought out the rights to Instagram. And so that's also obviously, worth talking about, and because Instagram is very popular. Finally, the third choice I put on there is Tiger King. And originally, my original intention was to say, F it, I'm gonna do Tiger King. We're in a pandemic, we're in Zoom. And, when the pandemic started and UCF shut down, everybody shut down. David Silver, NBA, even the NBA shut down. I remember I was going to go to a spring training ball game in Dunedin. Even the Major League Baseball shut down, So everybody was watching Tiger King, right? And Tiger King has to be the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. You know what I'm saying? And at the same time, I have to tell you, it's also probably the most beautiful thing. I mean, if anything better represents American culture and just the flamboyance and the craziness of these people. I don't know what it is. And the thing about Tiger King that I really like, though, although I'm making it an option, you can vote on it or vote on the other two movies, is you see here I'm a huge I do game theory, and it was one of my areas of research. And game theory is something called evolutionary game theory. And so biologists have used game theory to understand to understand non-human animal behavior. And I have to tell you, big cats, in addition to being some of the most majestic and beautiful animals in the world, exotic animals. I have to tell you, animals generally, and big cats specifically, really generate. And I didn't realize this until I taught this course last summer A, when I used Tiger King. There was no vote. I just used Tiger King because we're in a pandemic and the thing just came out and everybody was watching it. But I didn't realize what a tight connection there is between law, morality, and animals. It's true that not all businesses, use animals, but if you think about it, if like I'm a big fan of Chick-fil-A. That's my go-to spot, but is it ethically right to eat animals? You know what I mean? And if not, where do we draw the line? Why can we eat chickens and not other types of animals? Animals, and it turns out that the common law and the law, generally speaking, raise a whole bunch of, there's a whole bunch of cases, leading cases, some of the greatest cases in our common law tradition that actually, spring out of disputes over animals and how we should treat animals and who owns animals and whether animals can be owned at all. So Tiger King, even though it sounds crazy, like it has nothing to do with business, in fact, has a lot to do with business because, animals are integral in a lot of different business models. And that raises a lot of legal and ethical questions. But also, I should say that at the heart of the Tiger King was a trademark and copyright logo dispute between Carole Baskin and Joe Exotic. And so there's fascinating legal issues there as well. And of course, not to be outdone is the murder for hire. A lot of people, like people think about Lee Harvey Oswald, a lot of people legitimately believe that Joe Exotic was framed by the government because of his political views and his flamboyant lifestyle. That in fact, if he is in fact guilty of murder for hire, then how come nobody else who participated in the murder for hire plot was prosecuted by the feds? So it raises a whole bunch of issues about selective prosecution, when the government can come after you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And as you may know, although President Trump pardoned a whole boatload of people on the last day of his presidency, Joe Exotic was not one of them. And so that was surprised a lot of people. So those three movies, really, I want you to vote on them, thinking of what, if we're going to have one theme of the course or what the main theme should be. Tell me which of those movies, which movies do you want to watch? Now, JFK, let me tell you, unfortunately, the film JFK, it's not available on Netflix or HBO Max. You can only get it, probably get it, a whole bunch of ways that may be legal or illegal. I recently rewatched the JFK movie. I got it on Amazon Prime for $2.99, $3. And I think it was 2-day rental, and it's a 3-hour movie. But I got to tell you, it's the fastest 3 hours I've ever spent, because it's so fascinating, all the conspiracy theories and how strong the evidence is that there was probably a conspiracy. If you don't, the movie Parkland, which is mostly about the Zapruder film, that's for free. It's available on Amazon Prime for free. It's not on Netflix or HBO Max, but it's on Amazon. If you have Amazon Prime, you can get Parkland for free. And that's actually a great movie. Paul Giamatti is just an amazing actor. Social Network and Tiger King, of course, are both available on Netflix. If you have a Netflix subscription or a friend with Netflix, you should have no problem watching those. So I just want you to watch one of the movies so that when I talk about how business law interacts with, legal and ethical environments, you can see what I'm talking about here. Whether it's the Zapruder film, whether it's, facemash, when Zuckerberg hacked illegally into Harvard, and, or whether it's, murder for hire and a business rivalry that's gone out of control in the big cat industry. Now, with that I think I've talked a lot. We can begin to wind down, but before I do question and answer, let's do one last screen share and let's see if we can look at our survey results. If if you haven't done it, just go into the survey now. What I will do is I'll do a screen share, and I will go into the home page of the course. And this is the NASDAQ board. Let's go back into the home page. And I think for me, because I'm in the teacher modality, all I have to do is press on here and go to survey statistics. So now I'll tell you right now, we have, as of today, 384 students, if I'm not mistaken, enrolled in the course. Last summer, we actually had 407 students, which 407 is the Orlando area. Oh, great, here are our statistics, is the Orlando area code. But one student did do a medical withdrawal, so we ended up with 406. So we'll see, whether how close we get to 400. In terms of majors, by the way, okay, we have 200 students. So this is great. This is awesome. We have about 2/3 of the class have already participated in the survey. So this is just give you some sense of academic majors. And in fact, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to zoom in so we can see these results a little bit better. Let's see. Now, you'll get full credit for any response. I don't know why Canvas marks the top answer as the green answer, but this is a survey, graded survey, so any response, you get your full credit. That's just a glitch, or something that is needs to be improved upon in the Canvas website. But notice 17% of the students are accounting majors. For accounting, the common law is going to be extremely important in your CPA exam. That's why week 3 I address the common law, and I'll give you all you need to know from the legal perspective to be ready for that CPA exam. Because really, if you're in accounting, that really should be your goal. You want to be a certified public accountant, so you have as many options, career options as possible. Economics, we got 4%. Now, economics is a great major. People don't realize how versatile economics is. There's a branch of law called law and economics. I've done some papers in that area, but we got 4% in economics. Finance, notice we're neck and neck with accounting. Finance, obviously, it's a great major. Integrated business is also there neck and neck with finance and accounting, as is management. Marketing looks like is edging out most of the majors here. So we got a lot of marketing students. Now with marketing, week 4, when we do the common law, how do you legally protect your brand? How can you trademark your brand? And that's going to be fundamental, because unless you own the legal rights to your brand won't have as much economic value. So that's going to be fundamental for the marketing majors. Let's see here, real estate, 2%, so that's low. Double major, we have a couple of double majors in here, and we have some non-business majors as well. Now, in terms of the geography of the student population here in our class, obviously most of the students are going to be from Florida. We're going to be a little bit over 2/3. But what's really interesting, we got, when you add up East Coast, Midwest, Mountain, and nobody from the West Coast. So I'll be representing the West Coast here, as I am originally from Los Angeles, California, and went to college at UC Santa Barbara. But notice we have a few people from other parts of the United States. I know for a fact, looking at the part 2 of the academic activity, many of you were born out of state but grew up in Florida, and so you might associate with Florida. We have somebody from Canada, so that's great. We have a neighbor from the north. That's one. We have Canada in the house. Mexico and Central America are represented in here as well. That's a very low 2%. I can speak from personal experience. I did my study abroad in Cuernavaca in southern Mexico, and it was the best experience of my life. I became an honorary Mexican citizen, and I've never looked back. Ever since then, I've always wanted to. I've been doing a lot of traveling, and that was the best experience of my life when I was in college. The Caribbean, we have 5% from the Caribbean, so that's a pretty impressive. And then 8% from South America. So we got 13%, south of our North American border here. If you want to add Mexico as well, we're talking about a pretty healthy 15%. Some respondents from Europe. In terms of the other continents, a lot of students from, Asia's a huge area, and it includes the Indian subcontinent, includes, Far East, Southeast Asia, the People's Republic of China, Taiwan, Formosa. But we got a lot of respondents from over there, Mid East, and I always like to put outer space because maybe I left out an area, of the world, or maybe we have an alien among us, as UFOs are apparently real. Pentagon is studying these things now. So we have at least one alien in our class, outer space. Finally, let's look at our movie results, because this will impact what the syllabus will look like. And what's really interesting here is we do have a 14% of history buffs like me. I'll try to talk about the Zapruder film and the Jim Garrison prosecution, which is very controversial to this day, at some point in the course. So I'll talk about a few things. Unfortunately, it looks like the JFK is not going to be, you've just, if you want to watch, it's a 3-hour movie, or Parkland. I also recommend Parkland, by the way. It's under 90 minutes. I think it's the best movie I've ever seen about the JFK assassination, by the way. You had a couple of choices there. I'll talk about those historical events later on in the course. Notice Social Network's at 50%, pretty impressive. I'm saying it actually has a close to not just a plurality, but close to a majority. So probably here the focus then is going to be on social media, internet, and Facebook/Instagram, which is owned by Facebook Inc. So that's impressive. Notice Tiger King, though, is not too far behind here with 37%. So I'll definitely incorporate Tiger King. At least one of the modules will be about Tiger King. By the way, if you watch Tiger King, it's 7 episodes, but the relevant episode is going to be episode number 4. That's the episode that deals with the intellectual property dispute between Carole Baskin and Joe Exotic and their companies. And also, you may want to watch episodes 6 and 7, which deal more with the murder for hire aspect of the Joe Exotic empire that came crumbling down when he was prosecuted for murder for hire. So I'll definitely try to bring in maybe one of the modules will be about Tiger King. Now that I have these tentative results with 2/3 of the class, maybe I'll wait one more day, get a few more results, because with 2/3 of the class, the results could still change, but it looks like a Social Network is going to come out on top. So that'll be helpful for me in just coming up with the last parts of the, designing the last parts of the syllabus. So what I'll do now is I'll just recap, then open it up to question and answer. The recap is this week, all you have are these 2 academic activities, and they're both very simple and straightforward, as they do not require any reading or any, additional investment of time. So this week is basically, I call this our chill week. Do the academic activity. We're forced to do an academic activity. Okay, UCF, you want an academic activity? Here's your academic activity. Then next week, starting on Monday and every Monday thereafter, I will post a new module. So every week following this initial week, we'll have a new module. Week 2, like I said, we'll talk about the main sources of law. I can tell you right now, the main sources of law come to state and local law. Then we have federal or national law. And then finally, we have international law, which is actually a very important source of law, as many businesses, do operate across borders. Week 3, which technically will begin not on Monday, the 31st, which is a holiday, but Tuesday, June 1st. I'll post the module that day. We'll talk about the common law. Common law involves contracts, property rights, and wrongs or torts, injuries. And these are fundamental background rules that apply to every business, small or large. Basically, most legal liability that business firms have to worry about are the background common law rules of breach of contract, of property rights infringement, and torts, injuries to your customers. So we'll talk about that. There, probably, since Social Network's up ahead, if it stays ahead, we'll probably focus on the complaint that the Winklevoss twins brought against Mark Zuckerberg. I'll show you that complaint. It's only 12 pages long, double spaced. And in that complaint, It has all the main theories that most theories of law that most business law disputes are based on: fraud, theft, and breach of contract, and including a few other allegations as well that are very important. So we'll talk about that probably in module in that week 3 module. Week 4, I call that the law of ideas. That's intellectual property rights. The reason why that really deserves its own module, I wish we had 20 weeks so I could talk about bankruptcy, so I could talk about employment and labor law, so I could talk about landlord-tenant law, so I could talk about wills and trusts and estates, so I can talk about negotiable instruments and counterfeiting, so I could talk about, and I could go on and on. But if I only have 5 more weeks after this week, I'm going to focus on intellectual property law. Why? Because first of all, intellectual property law is based originally on the common law, and a lot of it has been codified in federal and international law. But more importantly, business firms, like the ones that are cited in the front page of the New York Times, like AT&T, here below the fold, or the book publisher that published Andrew Cuomo's book about his so-called leadership during the coronavirus pandemic, or Apple, which probably, along with Amazon, they're actually above the fold. The most dominant business, I don't want to call them a monopoly. That's something we talked about in the last week of class. But, all of these businesses, successful businesses, that all have one thing in common. All 3 things that we saw, Social Network, JFK, Tiger King, they also have one thing in common. Not only are they about crimes, they're also about intellectual property, whether it's the Zapruder film, the Big Cat logo, or the Facebook website. So that I'm definitely going to be focusing on the Zapruder film and the Facebook website and show you how intellectual property law, it gives you the tools to build a successful business. This is important if you want to do your own startup. But even established businesses that they like to buy or license intellectual property rights, that's how you grow your business. And of course, Facebook is a great example of this. Zuckerberg not only stole the idea for the Facebook, but he also bought, legally, legitimately, he bought the rights to Instagram. So we'll see how there's different ways of obtaining intellectual property. You can steal it, or you could build it yourself, or you could buy it from somebody else. So that's going to be so fundamental. Next time you watch Shark Tank, by the way, you're going to notice that the decision whether to invest and how much to invest basically boils down to not just how good the idea is, but also whether that idea, the entrepreneurs, whether they own the intellectual property rights to that idea. So that's so important. So I'm going to break it down, simplify it, and explain it. Week 5, we'll do what we think of when we normally think of business law and law generally. We'll look at civil and criminal cases. I definitely want to talk about the JFK criminal, Jim Garrison's prosecution, that Kevin Costner plays the role of Jim Garrison. We'll talk about also the antitrust lawsuits against Facebook right now, and Google for that matter. Then finally, week 6, we'll just take it easy and we'll talk about ethics. Now, each of these modules will have basically a short quiz and a short discussion post, kind of like what you're doing this week. But the quiz, there will be correct and incorrect answers. The discussion post, I'll give you the readings, the book chapters for free in the module, and then you'll just read the relevant pages of the book chapter, and then you'll write an answer to that. So I'll post that every Monday. I'll post the module with those 2 assignments, probably a short quiz and a short discussion post for that module. Now, the last part of the grade, there will be a final project, as the testing center is closed until summer B. So for the last part of the grade, there'll be a final project where you will apply what you've learned about the common law, about sources of law, about the law of ideas or intellectual property rights, and about ethics and litigation risk. You'll pick a business firm of your own choosing, ideally a business firm that you'd like to work at after you graduate from college. And then you'll write up a short report, 3 to 5 page report on that business where you apply what you've learned in this course to that business. The idea with that is that if you can get an interview at that job, at that company, you can attach your report to your resume and to your cover letter, and you can help set apart your candidacy. Your resume and your cover letter will actually stand apart if you attach an actual report about that company showing to the recruiter how much you know about the company. You know, you're not just a specialist, you also have general knowledge about the law and ethics of that company. And let me tell you, that's going to give you a huge advantage. That's like being chosen in the first round of the NFL or NBA draft, as opposed to the later rounds or not being drafted at all. So that's a huge advantage. So I will put all of those details in the syllabus. I haven't posted the syllabus yet because I was waiting for the survey results so I can see what to focus on. I was hoping we'd have some more JFK history buffs in here, but that's fine. Probably the Zapruder film, you know, is not the most important business artifact out there, but it is an important one in our nation's history. It's the most famous home movie of all time. Definitely Facebook. We all use we all use some form of social media, or most of us do. So clearly that's extremely relevant. But I also would like to vote, if you haven't voted yet, Tiger King. Animals are actually super important. It's not just the big cat industry, you know, private and public zoos. Right now, there's a bill pending before Congress to make the ownership of big cats illegal. Illegal. That sounds crazy, you know. Can Congress actually make it illegal, a federal crime, to own a tiger, for example, or a cockadrille, or another type of exotic animal?
Yeah. I actually might have to head out because I have to go home and go to work. Do you want to work on this tomorrow, or are you going to keep trying it? Because it's just social and political for East West Africa. Because I'll be here tomorrow.
But I still have to do weeks.
Oh yeah.
So I may just do it tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah. Because I'll be here.
Because tomorrow all I gotta do is this. And then
Hey Lawrence, you're unmuted right now.
study for the math DBA I have,
Hey, y'all need to mute.
and then that after that DBA.
Hey, whoever's
so
talking right now needs to
No,
unmute
mute,
themselves.
That
All right, there we go. That's perfect timing, because at this point, what I want to do is just open it up to this last part of this is just an introductory lecture. I just wanted to open it up to question and answers. So any, just general questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, any questions, comments, or concerns. Most of it should be on the homepage of the course. Like I said, I'll put some more details in the syllabus. Syllabus should be, I'm going to try to keep it as short as possible, in terms of, but basically that's how it's going to be. After this week, there'll be one module per week. That module will just give you, 2 assignments, generally speaking, a quiz and a short discussion post. And then I'll release the final project the last 2 weeks of the course as a short 3 to 5 page report. But any other questions, comments, or concerns? Because I'm looking at this from my perspective. I need to see it from the student perspective. I may have omitted something or left something out. In the meantime, I'll grab a little bit of water.
Hello.
Hmm?
I have a quick question.
Yes, jump
I
in.
noticed on Canvas on web courses that we don't have to purchase a textbook, but I just wanted to double check.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so for Summer A, I didn't want to hassle with the first day, get a bunch of emails. And that's a great question. Each module, I'll provide you the reading. I wrote the textbook, so, I'm just going to go, or I co-wrote, I should say I co-authored. It's a big textbook. So since we're not going to be covering Summer A, we're not going to be covering all 25 chapters. Some textbooks are 50 chapters. What I'll do is probably we'll cover, 5 to 6 chapters, give or take. I'll provide the PDF of the whatever reading I will assign. There'll be no more than 1 to 2 chapters per module. I'll just provide it in the module, and it'll be right up on top. So each module, it'll have the reading assignment up top. Then I may have some supplemental stuff. I may have a movie clip. I may have like an actual historical artifact, like the Zapruder film, or some Facebook documents, or some Tiger King documents, depending on what we're talking about. And then I'll end with the actual quiz and discussion post for that module. So each module is self-contained, and you'll have the full week. You'll have until, I believe, the following Monday, 11:59 p.m., to complete the assignment. So you can then do it at your time based on your schedule. So yeah, no need to buy anything. The only thing you'll need to buy, I will ask you, because I do want everybody to see how law interacts with, business and different areas of business. whatever you voted for, go ahead and watch that movie. You know what I mean? Or that, those episodes. If it's Tiger King, definitely watch episode 4. And maybe the last 2 episodes, which are the murder for hire plot. If it's Social Network is about a 2-hour movie. I definitely want you to watch the first part of the movie. To me, it's the best part of the movie, the first 25 minutes. And by the way, that's the part of the movie that's the most accurate, historically speaking, because the dialogue in that, or the monologue in that movie, is word for word from Mark Zuckerberg's blog as he was hacking into Harvard. So the hacking Harvard scene, or the facemash episode, that'll be focusing on, because I want to focus on illegality. And then with JFK, or the movie Parkland with Paul Giamatti, plays Abraham Zapruder, then that's more historical. Either of those 2 movies are fine, and I'll weave in the Zapruder film and the various JFK conspiracies where they're relevant. You know what I mean? But yeah, so no, you don't have to buy anything here. And if you have Netflix, you're good, because you can watch Social Network or Tiger King on that. Anybody else jump in here? Also, I have 2 of my teaching assistants are in the chat moderating, so hopefully they've been answering. Let me introduce them both to you if they're available. I have Emily Curley, who's my graduate teaching assistant, and I have Benjamin Mayo, who's my one of my undergraduate. I have another undergraduate teaching assistant as well. If you could just introduce yourself to the class, and then let me know if there's any question from the chat that I should address.
Hey guys, I'm Emily. I'm, like Professor said, I'm a graduate accounting student here at UCF. Professor, I would like to say a lot of the students were saying that if they would have known what JFK was all about, then they would have originally voted for that. So a lot of people are asking for a revote. I don't know if that's possible, but definitely a lot more people interested in it than we originally expected.
Great. In that case, send us an email if you want to change your vote, because that's only fair. I opened, in fact, I was even considering not opening the academic activity until the beginning of this lecture, because I thought that might occur, but I didn't want to also hold up, on that. So I tell you what, if you would like to change your vote, go ahead and just send us an email, and then we will, what we'll do is we'll make the final adjustments. Like I say, it's not going to be all or nothing. Last time I did a survey, it was all or nothing. And so, Facebook won one time, Tiger King one other. And then I realized it doesn't have to be that way. We have 5 modules. So we'll definitely, one of the modules will be devoted to JFK. There's no doubt about that, because that is the most important, that is the greatest murder mystery of all time. It still really hasn't been solved, unless you want to ignore the inconsistencies in the Warren report. You know what I mean? And it may be the Warren report is true, but there's a lot of doubt about that. Whatever gets the most vote, I'll spend the most time talking about, like if it's Facebook, for example, or social network. But yeah, by all means, because that will help us me weight the syllabus. So that's okay. Any other questions or comments? By the way, Ben, why don't you introduce yourself as well, as I see you're online now.
Yeah, no, I thought you were going to cut me off there. Hi, everybody.
Ben, we probably have a weak connection on your side. But that's Ben. And Ben, although he just graduated not long ago, he was a economics and philosophy. Oh, there you are. Good. Go ahead.
Really. Oh, did it not work?
Now it is, I think. Well, we may have some technical issues, but
I'm going to switch over to give me a sec.
Yeah, no worries. But I just want to introduce the 2 of the 3 teaching assistants. You'll notice I put a course email just because I'm in the middle of making a presentation at Tulane Law School 2 Fridays from today. So I won't be as responsive with it. I need my teaching assistants to help me with the course emails. And so at least for the first couple of weeks of the course, I have included some links, this week, like I said, it's a chill. I've included a link to my blog. You can scroll through that, see the stuff. I'm trying to respond, and I have been responding to every single student in part 2 of the academic activity. Just to get to know everybody. By the way, one last thing: when the academic activity closes, it closes on Friday. or that the due date is Friday, 11:59 as per UCF rules. But UCF also requires me to keep it open until the last day of the semester. So you can still complete the assignment, but if you complete it before Friday, I'll respond to you. And well, I forgot what I was going to say. I forgot what I was going to say about that. Oh yeah, but if you, so I'll be responding to each of that, and then getting to know you. Oh yeah, when the assignment does close, the academic activity, you will be asked, it'll generate some peer reviews. You don't need to stress that out. It's a one sentence, quick phrase. I just want the students to get to know other students in the class, given that we're in an online format. I'll be the first to say that Zoom is, it's better than not having Zoom. But of course, it's, I don't know if you're like me, you're tired of Zoom. So it's just a way of getting to know each of your fellow classmates. So the peer reviews, we only grade them that if you've done them, we're not really reading, but you want to make sure you got to, this will be the one assignment where you get to, meet some other classmates. So you will be randomly assigned 3 other students. Some of you have already replied, and that's perfectly fine. Once you submit your activity part 2, you can go ahead. You don't have to wait for the assignment to close. If you just want to respond to 3 people, that's perfectly fine. Then you'll be done. So I just want to throw that out there, that there will be a peer review element there. I don't want anybody to freak out. That's just a purely logistical thing to give everybody a chance to meet other people in the class, because we are online. The idea there is that you never know if you're going to meet that person at a bar, or maybe at another class, or somewhere, you know what I mean? And so the idea is that to create those connections, as best we can, given that this course will be entirely online. Finally, because the student we have as of today, and probably have the number may fluctuate as we have the add and drop period is until the end of the week. But right now we have 384 students. So I normally require attendance, but because the UCF is the Zoom at UCF is capped at 300, I can't require attendance. So I'll be recording each of these lectures. Then it takes a couple of hours usually because it's recorded to the cloud, and then it'll be sent to me from the Zoom Zoom servers, and then I'll post that to YouTube and post the link to web courses, so that you can have if you miss a lecture on any particular Tuesday, or you're unable to attend the lecture, your best bet is actually to attend the lectures, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to save you a lot of time. There's no substitute for reading the chapters that I'll be giving you in each module. But what I will do in each lecture is I will just summarize the most relevant information in the chapter that I assign for the assignments that are due that week. So it's definitely, I want to reward you from watching the lectures. This lecture is complete, just a short introduction where I just talk about, sort of my approach to the course, show you that whether we're talking about the home movie, recording the most famous assassination since the killing of Julius Caesar, whether we're talking about the founding of a social media empire, Facebook and now Instagram, whether we're talking about something as crazy and as lunatic as the people in the big cat industry, you know what I mean? There's actually, interactions with business. To me, Tiger King has the added bonus that we're dealing with animals, and animals are majestic and beautiful creatures, and that the law has a lot to say about how we should treat animals and what legal rights, if any, animals have. So it's to me mind-blowing stuff when I taught Tiger King exclusively, because I ended up actually learning. I thought I knew everything about the law. I ended up learning stuff that I didn't even know about, because I didn't really put together animals and business law until I did the Tiger King. So all 3, like I say, there'll be at least one module for each of these movies. You can watch whatever movie you want, but whatever wins out, that will be, most of the modules, of the 5 modules. So it'll be a pretty simple design, 1 module per week, open up on Monday. And then, with all the materials you need, including the reading stuff and the assignments and whatever videos, there'll always be short videos, and then we'll have our Tuesday lectures. We only have 1 lecture per week. So I would strongly recommend and encourage that you watch the lectures. I'll try to make the lectures entertaining. I think without further ado, any other questions, comments, or concerns? Good. I think then this is pretty good. As you can see, it's summer A. we're all busy doing a bunch of other stuff. We all would rather be at the beach hanging out. So what I'm going to do is going to be as chill as possible. This week, all you have to worry about is your academic activity, and that's very easy. You know what I mean? And then watch one of those movies. You know what I mean? But the other weeks, it'll be one module per week. Each module will just have, it'll be very short, simple modules. And then I'll give you the video lecture where I explain that area of law and just break it down. You're going to come away with this class, especially, by the way, one last thing I will end. Only maybe a handful of you are considering law school. I'll be updating the web course. I'll have a law school Zoom Friday at 5 p.m. And I'll be doing these periodically during the semester for those of you interested in law school. So if you can't make the first one, I'll do another one in 2 weeks after that, and then one more after that. But if you are going to law school, this course is actually going to be very helpful because it'll give you the big picture of what we mean by law and why law is so important. And for those of you that are going to go directly into industry or graduate studies, this course will also be useful because it's going to enrich your understanding. So it's going to enrich. And so my philosophy here as a pedagogical or teaching philosophy is based on the great Erasmus of Rotterdam. Erasmus is one of the greatest thinkers of all time. He traveled all over Europe. And he taught at all these universities, including University of Paris, including Oxford, including Leiden in the Netherlands. And Erasmus, the whole thing about him was, the idea of a liberal art. And by that, I don't mean politically, I just mean, humanism, learning law for the law's sake, knowledge. So that's what we'll be doing here. You'll have a big picture of the law and how it affects you in a daily life. So that when you do go online on Drudge Report or Daily Cause or Daily Beast, or you read pick up the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal, or your favorite periodical, you'll be able to appreciate what these people are, what these journalists are talking about, and what these controversies are all about. So I think it'll be a good semester overall. All right, great. I will post the syllabus later today as we get more of the votes, as we get closer. Once I get like 80% of the votes, I think, once the results won't be able to be modified, I'll go ahead then and update the syllabus and post it to web courses. But there's no other assignments this week, so you don't have to stress it out. Just do your academic activities, and I'll see everybody next Tuesday. And I'll post the next module on Monday. All right. Wish everybody then a great week and a great weekend as well. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Peace out, boys.
Take care. I'll stay on if anybody has any
Bye,
questions.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Yes, my pleasure.
Thanks. Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Yes, goodbye.
Yeah, I get to talk.
Take care.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Can I ask you some
Professor, I think
questions?
Albert had a question.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, please jump in here.
So I sent you a message yesterday, but I'm sure you didn't get to.
Oh, yes. And I was meaning to respond. You know what? I remember your message and actually appreciate it because I know exactly who you are as I see you. That yes, exactly. And that you actually, took the time to read my introduction and stuff like that. And I was meaning to reply actually, but I was replying I had about 66 students who already did part 2. And that took a little bit of time, this morning. And then I was updating the blog as well for the next post for tomorrow. So I apologize. I knew I left something out. And I'll be honest with you, I have not checked my emails. I saw your email yesterday, but I'm going to do it today in the morning, but I didn't do it today in the morning because I haven't checked my emails yet. But go ahead. Yeah, I do recall. Yes, you did wrote. And I was going to thank you actually. And so I'll take advantage and thank you now. I'll still reply, but I wanted to thank you now for reaching out. And certainly, hopefully, I think you'll enjoy the semester.
I was just wondering if I could anything to work, and for GEB we have to interview someone who's doing what we want to do.
Okay.
And if you'd be open to, I'd be I'd like.
Yeah,
love-
absolutely, absolutely. If you have your interview questions now, let's do it now. Otherwise, we can schedule a time when you are ready.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what we have to ask yet.
Okay, great.
Just to ask.
Then in that case, yes. In that case, just once you get the background information and you know what you have to basically be asking for, then we'll set something up. We can do after class, or at a time that's mutually convenient. That's perfectly fine.
Because the last GEB we had to write down like what type of like what we want to do, and I was like, I want to go to law school. I want to study abroad while I'm in law school. I want to.
Oh, good. Yes, yes, exactly. And take advantage. Also, UCF has a great global studies. I know now everything pandemic, everything is shut down. In fact, I was supposed to be in Budapest last summer. That was supposed to be my 34th country, as I've never been to Hungary, but that was of course canceled and it was postponed this summer. I won't be able to go until 2022 now, next year. So, yeah, absolutely. By all means, once you get all that background information, you can, rewrite to me and then we'll square that away.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that'd be really, really appreciated.
Indeed,
All
indeed, great. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? I'll stay here. We still have some class time available here.
Thank you again.
Yes, of course. Take care. Good to see everybody. As you can see, this first week is completely chill. As I like to say, as students like to say, I love that phrase. Just do the academic activities, and then we will get formally. I need a break. I know you probably need a break as well. So what we're going to be doing is next Monday, I'll release the first module, and it'll be super simple. I'll just introduce you to the main sources of law. The only thing that will change is, okay, what's going to get the most votes? What are we going to start with? But that's, I'll wait for the survey. We got most of the results now. Probably within the next day, we'll get most of the results. So I could just post the syllabus, and then I'll give you more details moving forward. All right, great. So take care to everyone. I will then shut down and see everybody on Tuesday. We do have the course email. We'll be on top of that. And in case anything comes up in between, but it should be super chill this week, just so we can ease into the summary. That's the idea. We want to ease into this. I will, by the way, stop the recording. Oops, that's my video. I'm going to stop the recording.